97.3. Come on. Let's go.
Traffic Avenue, the show for me and you. Mondays to Fridays, ooh, the Traffic Avenue. Traffic Avenue, the show for me and you. Mondays to Fridays, ooh, the Traffic Avenue.
Flex. Buckle up and join the best. Let's see, relieve your stress. So yes, let the music soothe your soul and keep it going just to refresh. Buckle and enjoy the ride from 2 to the half of the 5. Mondays to Fridays happening live. Where we gon' have a ball, you can text your guys. Let me tell you what you really gotta do. You can count on us, we come through. We got everything you need, that's true. Are you ready for the Traffic Avenue? Let me tell you what you really gotta do. You can count on us, we come through. We got everything you need, that's true. An applause for the Traffic Avenue.
Traffic Avenue, the show for me and you. Mondays to Fridays, ooh, the Traffic Avenue. Traffic Avenue, the show for me and you. Mondays to Fridays.
Detailed news, unparalleled coverage. City News on 97.3 FM.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
City News.
It's 17:30 GMT. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. We are coming to you from our studios in Adabraka in Accra. My name is Umaru Sanda Amadou, and tonight I'm here with
Eno Safo.
And coming up over the next 90 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, we have turned the corner, and more importantly, we are determined to continue down that path.
No new taxes, no request for more money from the people's representatives. Economy has turned a corner. The three key takeaways from the Ken Ofori-Atta statement, which is a mid-year budget that was delivered to the House of Parliament. We'll be doing the analysis here tonight, and he talks about our debt situation. Listen.
Because we have defaulted in servicing our debt owed to Eurobond lenders, China, Saudi Arabia, India, UK, Japan, France, and many more countries. I don't know of Togo, but it could be that we owe them.
And that's a response from the minority leader, Kesela Forsin. Also coming up, two top appointees of President Akufo-Addo in a tango over the management of funds at the District Assembly's Common Fund. Irene Toshiato, according to the Minister for Local Government and Decentralization, who is MP for Kredamboche, is not working in the best way that she ought to be. We'll be doing the analysis here for your Eyewitness News. And later, Ghana Water Company Limited cuts water supply to senior high schools in Eastern Accra. School managers are unhappy because it would affect the ongoing WASI. But Ghana Water Company says it is simply looking for its money. Still with 97.3 Citi FM for more of this and many other stories on Eyewitness News. And in business,
government announces downward revision of key macroeconomic targets for the rest of the 2023 fiscal year.
More from the business desk of Citi TV and Citi FM. That will be at 15 minutes or in 50 minutes from now. Eyewitness News is live across Ghana on a number of affiliate stations. We are in the Western region on Premier 100.5 FM, Beach 105.5 FM, and Sky Power 93.5 FM. All of them in Takrady. We are in Bono region on Greener 95.9 FM. In Sunyani, we are in Ahafo region on Hames 106.5 FM in Goso. We are in Ashanti region on Orange 107.9 FM in Kumasi. We are in Volta region on Akpini 96.7 FM in Pando, Heritage 107.3 FM in Hohwe. We are in the Northern region on Dasuma 99.1 FM in Yendi. Upper East, we are on Word FM 88.3 in Zwarungu. Upper West, we are on Westlink 88.1 FM in Laura. And Northeast, we are on Eagle 94.1 FM in Wale Wale. We're live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. We are interactive. Do join us with your messages on WhatsApp 0549 986 996. That's the WhatsApp number 0549 986 996. Alternatively, go on Twitter and drop your message, or I should say go on X and put your message there using the hashtag Citi Newsroom. Tweet at Umaru Sanda or at Citi973. Let's settle for details of our stories now. The mid-year budget ought to have been delivered to the House of Parliament latest 31st July 2023. And that's what the law says. And today the minister obeyed and obliged and delivered that statement to the House. Let's hear key highlights. Eno has a wrap.
As part of moves to strengthen its fiscal consolidation measures, government says it is collaborating with the Ghana Revenue Authority to enhance revenue collection. Delivering the mid-year budget review statement on Monday, July 31, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta noted the need to address the shortfalls accumulated in its domestic revenue mobilization. Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta further indicated government is committed to ensuring economic resilience as it makes strides in its economic recovery program.
We are back on track to a positive primary balance. Mr. Speaker, the fiscal balances are driven by total revenue and grants for the first half of 2021 billion, 8.4% below the target of 64.7 billion. Despite the shortfall, the outturn shows a nominal year-on-year growth of 41.8%. The key driver of revenue deviation is the lower than programmed oil receipts and total expenditure of 68.5 billion, 26.3% below the program expenditure of 92.9 billion. All other expenditure lines were contained within their respective targets for the period, except for compensation, ease and expenditure on goods and services. The higher than program compensation of employees outturn stems from higher payments for wage and salaries from the implementation of the 30% base pay increase for public sector workers, which was agreed to after the 2023 budget was presented and approved by this August House last year. We needed, Mr. Speaker, to protect our workers. Mr. Speaker, government introduced several revenue measures to support the fiscal consolidation and growth agenda. The policy interventions were specifically targeted at growing the revenue base to yield an estimated 1.35% of GDP. The Ministry of Finance and GRA are working together to ensure the realization of the full yield in the near future through enhanced collection efforts, governance, and EVAT implementation. Mr. Speaker, arising from the DDEP, several structural changes have commenced in the reporting of Ghana's debt data. The debt from the special purpose vehicles, which previously was not part of the central government debt, has now been included. Furthermore, we'll be including the long-term debt of selected SOEs, such as Cocoa Board and contingent liabilities arising from the IPPs, PPAs, and financial sector recapitalization. Mr. Speaker, the macroeconomic environment has changed significantly since the 2023 budget was presented to this House in November 2022. Mr. Speaker, although pressure still exists and there are formidable risks in the horizon, our economy is in a position than it was 7 months ago, as the macroeconomic environment has seen relative stability since the beginning of the year. This is largely explained by factors including the positive sentiments following the staff-level agreement reached in December 2022 and the subsequent approval of the 3-year, $3 billion IMF ECF program, the eventual passage of all fiscal measures in the 2023 budget by the House, and the completion of the DDEP program, and China's agreement to co-chair the OCC with France. Mr. Speaker,
You heard Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta.
On the general state of the economy, you do know the challenges that we've been going through. The minister sounded very confident and said, we're on the right path. Listen to him.
Mr. Speaker, it is no exaggeration to say We cannot find another period in our history where so many different headwinds hit our economy at the same time with unrelenting speed and scale. Thankfully, as the members are beginning to show, and as many honorable members of the House have indicated to me in our engagements, we have together as a nation turned the corner. Turned the corner, Mr. Speaker. We have avoided the unimaginable, but what could have been so easily possible under different leadership circumstances. With a lot of effort, we have managed to avoid empty shop shelves for medicines and other essentials. We have seen no shortage of food. We have been spared the frustrating specter of long queues for fuel at our filling stations, and we have managed, in spite of all the challenges, to keep the lights on. Indeed, as the psalmist said in Psalm 118:23, this is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. This turning the corner is underpinned by the investments and sacrifices we have collectively made during the difficult period since March 2020. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we acknowledge some of the major milestones that this country has experienced in the last 3 years. We could be still and appreciate that despite our challenges as a country, we have been saved from many extreme conditions that others have suffered, including peace, health, security, continuous supply of power, and life itself indeed. Over the period, the country has gone through extremely difficult circumstances, and the gratitude of His Excellency the President and his government goes to the good people of Ghana for their patience, understanding, and positive contributions to government efforts to weather the storms. During the COVID-19 period, we indeed lost family members and friends. But it's also true that Ghana recorded some of the lowest cases of mortality and infections worldwide. This was due to the implementation of a swift and robust COVID-19 response program led by His Excellency the President. We recorded 171,653 COVID-19 cases and 1,462 unfortunate deaths, as against 10.8 million cases recorded and 228,738 deaths on the African continent alone, and 249 million recorded cases and 2 million deaths in Europe. Of our friends and family faithfully departed, rest in peace.
So that's Ken Ofori-Atta. He's a Minister for Finance, delivering the mid-year budget review to the House of Parliament. The basic thing is that he's not asking for more money. The question is it that we don't have more money to be asked for? There's no taxes imposed. Is it the case that we have simply finished taxing the people? These are questions that I'll put into analysts in a bit. But let's get some reactions from the minority side.
The minority in Parliament says the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has worsened the woes of Guineans by his presentation of the mid-year budget review. The caucus says the revision of economic growth from 2.8% of GDP to 1.5% by the government suggests that the economy is declining and is likely to have a dire impact on jobs and the living conditions of the public. Here's Minority Leader Dr. Kaysla Tuforton reacting to the presentation of the mid-year budget review presented by the Finance Minister today.
It is wrong for a minister responsible for finance to say that he has successfully turned the corner. That can never be the case. In fact, according to Adongo, he's not even close to the corner. What he has successfully done, indeed, is that he has deepened the woes of the ordinary Ghanaian. I say this for a simple reason, because of certain factors that the statement has outlined. First, he has revised economic growth from 2.8% of GDP to 1.5% of GDP. This clearly shows that the economy is contracting and it is declining, and obviously is going to affect jobs and the welfare of the ordinary Ghanaian. Remember that in the year 2022, the overall GDP growth was 2.2%. He announced it was 3.1%. He announced in the 2023 budget in November, when he appeared before us, that the economy is expected to grow at 2.8%. I had indicated to him that with all what is happening in the economy, there is no way Ghana's economy can grow at 2.8%. Today, and finally, the chicken has come home to be roasted. He has informed us that the economy is going down, and to the extent that GDP growth is going to be 1.5% by the end of the year 2023. Even this, I have my doubt. Because looking at all what is happening, if care is not taken, we will struggle to see economic growth at above 1%. As if that is not enough, our minister today informed us, and again in the 2023 budget that was read in November, he indicated that he's not going to borrow from the domestic market at all. Zero financing from the domestic market. Sadly, today he has informed us that he has gone ahead without parliamentary approval and have borrowed from the T-bill market an amount of 5.5 billion Ghana cedis. And as if that is not enough, he's going to borrow another 41.3 billion before the year ends. So, colleagues, no wonder inflation is still going up and rising. No wonder that the central bank is busily increasing monetary policy rate. No wonder that lending rate is still going up. I wouldn't be surprised that at the end of the year, inflation will not make any headway. This is a gargantuan missed opportunity. Ghana had the opportunity to reduce lending rate downwards under 15%. Unfortunately, due to the activities of government, particularly the over-borrowings and over-expenditure from government, Ghana's lending rate and market rates are still going up. T-bill rate not long ago was about 14%. Today we are doing about 23, 24, 25. We may end up in the 30s before the year ends.
That's okay.
You heard Minority Leader Dr. Kaysel Atuforsen.
This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. We are just bringing you voices from the Chamber of Parliament. When we come back, we'll be going on the phone lines to speak to analysts and politicians, so we discuss the media budget review, which was a non-budget request, really, if you look at it. We'll be back.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
You know your papa see that? And it's rickety car. Hey, Papa! Papa!
Bobo, so how your engine now?
It is half man, half amazing. Thanks to Cause and you. Can't feel better energy. Can't touch this. Tell you guys, so Sancho's engine just died like that?
Yes, so
somebody managed to convince him that there is a better engine oil than Quartz, and he switched.
Sancho Panza. Now, which engine oil can be better than Quartz?
No other, my guy. Quartz with its age-resistant technology, it keeps your engine younger for longer.
Now you know. Have you guys seen the new bottle design? It's superb. Quartz 9000 from Total Energies there improves fuel efficiency.
Why do you think Mr. Mane and Logoso have taken the Quartz Nation movement World Cup like that? Sorry. Chairman.
Quartz. Keep your engine younger for longer.
When shopping for a dress, you say,
of course, a low burst line, a little tight by the hips, covered sleeves, off shoulder, definitely.
But when buying anti-malarial drug, you say,
is it not malaria? Give me whatever is available.
Choose your malaria drugs the same way you choose your dress. Always ask for Coatem. It's also available in cherry-flavored dispersible tablets for children. Don't gamble with malaria. Choose right. Choose Coatem. If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult your doctor. Malaria testing should be done before treatment. This advert is FDA approved.
Whether in passing by the food market, visiting the salon,
or filling up my tank for a spontaneous adventure with old friends in a new city. When asked, cash or card? It's always card for me. I switched from cash to card for all my payments with MasterCard. Now I get to do what I enjoy with ease.
Switch from cash to card for all your payments with MasterCard. MasterCard, the secure and convenient way to pay.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
You're welcome back. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. We are coming to you from our studios in Adabraka in Accra. The conversation is around what the Minister for Finance presented to the House of Parliament today. He's talked about turning a corner, the economy doing so well. But prior to the delivery of the mid-year budget review, persons who have been supplying us power in the private sector to complement our national grid have been complaining. I'm referring to the IPPs, Independent Power Producers. They had planned a mass action. They have withdrawn that, awaiting government move. What does today's budget mean to them? Have they been satisfied? Does it mean that the power will remain on, or the threat that we heard about is going to come into force? Elik Plim Apetogbo is CEO of the Independent Power Producers Chamber. He's joining me on the line. Elik Plim, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you very much, Umaru.
Usually when budget is read, people jubilate. This is a mini budget, but for you, it is a crucial one. Has it touched on what you wanted it to touch on?
Thank you. I must say that I am happy that the Minister for Finance indicated that our concerns are very critical to him and the government. But I am expectant to see this criticality actualized for our relief. So let me say, I'm happy that he has recognized that.
Now, when he recognizes that, how does that reflect in your bank accounts?
He made some indications regarding to some strategies that they are putting in place. He made mention of an updated cash waterfall mechanism. And also he has indicated about government support to ECG to improve on its collection, to be able to meet the revenue target and paying the independent power producers.
All right, but specifically on the challenges you had, I wanted to know whether the corner that has been turned by the economy generally, you also see that corner in your business.
Okay, prior to the media budget review or the presentation today, we had some engagement on the day that we indicated our inability to continue on our operation. That was around June 30th. We had some engagement at the 11th hour and some assurances. It has been started, and just this afternoon we received an assurance that the process will continue, or the assurance that we had, the second part will be fulfilled.
The last time you were given an assurance, nothing happened. It forced you into a meeting. We do not know what the outcome of that meeting was, but you are trusting this new promise, I'm guessing, and which means that we should not be scared as consumers of power that you guys are going to be frustrated into shutting down your plants.
That is exactly the case. The offer we received actually has some issues that we were not able to address between the time frame that was given us. And actually, that was what led us to on the meeting to find a way out. And we have taken a decision that we are going by. But I can give the assurance that we are keeping good faith with the ECG or the government to sustain the light for the benefit of all.
And it looks like the power will be sustained.
That is the expectation. I think it will be sustained.
We hope and pray so. Thank you for speaking to us.
Welcome.
That's Elik Plim Apetogbo. He is a CEO of the Chamber of Independent Power producers. So that's on the issue of power. What about the issue of food? The food into your stomachs. Well, not your stomach, but the stomachs of students in our schools. You recall that the people who provide or supply food to these schools have also been engaging in one mass action or the other over the non-payment of their monies to them. Tonight, we're hearing from the Minister of Finance that particular hurdle has been crossed. Let's test this claim from the National President of School Feeding Association, Charlotte Asante. Madam, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you so much.
The minister says the problem has been solved. I'm referring to the feeding, the matters having to do with your challenges, financial challenges. Is that something you can confirm, please?
When it comes to financial challenges, I think we still have some few outstandings, which I know payment should have been effected last week. Actually, I don't know what happened, though, but maybe this week they will start paying the 2023 second term and other outstandings like 2019, the outstanding they are having with some few caterers. That's what I know about it. What the minister said about our outstanding being paid, what I know about it is that I quite remember we have some few meetings, and the outcome was that they will be paying the third term 2022 and first term 2023. That one has been done. But the 2023 second term is yet to be paid, which I'm telling you right now that maybe this week payment will be effected.
All right. So it's not as if the payment has been completed, but there are indications it will be completed, and you are getting that assurance. Yes,
it's in the process. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Do you have an idea how soon before all monies hit your accounts?
This week, the moment the money hits our account, we will let the media know.
Please let us know and do a party. We'll come and then celebrate with you.
And for the first time in the history of school feeding, I think payment has been consistent. Like the moment last month, the moment they finished paying the third term 2022, the next week they paid the first term 2023, and we are hoping it will continue like that for us. When they paid on time, it really helped we, the caterers, to purchase our item on time so that we can cook for the children.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much.
Charlotte Asante is National President of the School Feeding Caterers Association. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. Let's get some independent view now. Dr. Patrick Esumin is an economist. He is a lecturer in finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Doc, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you. Good evening, and good evening to listeners.
Good evening. Earlier when I was summarizing what happened, I said that the minister has not asked for more money to spend. And my question is it that we don't have money to be spent, so there was no point asking the people's representative to approve, or the minister is being disciplined? I don't know. How should we interpret that?
Well, I think the minister knows that so preceding the idea that he's not going to ask for more money, was the idea that we are not raising as much revenue as he initially projected. And given our current circumstances, the last thing we want to do is to run even bigger deficits and pile on more debt. So that is the context in which he said he's not going to ask for more appropriation or more amount to spend, because we just don't have, we are not able to raise as much as we want. And the last thing we should be doing is to be spending way more than we are collecting.
I see, but if that was a challenge, he could have actually started collecting, which means to introduce a new tax, and then based on that tax, expect some revenue based on which a new demand would be made. Would that not have been the logical thing to do, or the tax path is choked, sort of?
Yeah, over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of new tax handles. And, he would have been mindful that imposing new taxes wouldn't have been countenanced by Ghanaians, businesses and households, given the current circumstances we find ourselves, given what Ghanaian banks and other individuals have gone through with domestic debt exchange, given the new taxes that were recently introduced in May. And I think it would have been very problematic if the finance minister had contemplated bringing any new tax, given the circumstances we are in. So I think that is why he would have reflected and noticed that even if he decided to, it wouldn't be prudent to introduce new tax handles.
I see. But that would frustrate the general work of government, wouldn't it? Because it's a typical thing to expect that the government would make some more appropriations for the remaining part of the year. That has not been done. There's no revenue being collected through taxes. That would generally affect the business of government, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't think so. To begin with, the amount that was initially programmed to be spent this year was a significant increase from what we spent last year. That was quite substantial. So many people, myself included, believe that it was way too much to project to spend. So having to make a relatively minor adjustment is not out of place. So I think, there are many areas, you and I, if we budget, we plan to do things, and over the course of the year, our incomes are lower, we make adjustments. In this case, it's a relatively minor adjustment that the government has had to make.
All right.
So I think that can easily go on without affecting government operations.
That's fair. When the minister says the economy has turned a corner, which means we are doing well, do you see the same image from where you sit?
Well, the first thing is that I wouldn't interpret that comment that we've turned the corner to mean we are doing well.
Okay, we are on a path to doing well. Would that be a better interpretation?
Yeah, whichever way you put it, I don't see that the economy has really turned the corner. I think it's too premature to say we've turned the corner. If I take the minister's analogy about turning the corner, the way I'll put it is that, when you are approaching, in particular, a sharp corner, when you are driving and you are approaching a sharp corner, you are approaching with speed, you slow down significantly so that it gives you the leverage to turn the corner properly. So my sense is that we were really heading fast into a negative terrain, and we've managed to pull the brakes. We haven't really negotiated the corner yet. So if you look at the indicators he's referring to, saying that inflation has softened. Yes, inflation might have softened from December last year, but the rate we are running is still historic high. So you can't use that and say we've turned any corner. So on that score, we haven't turned the corner. And then he also mentions the currency relative stability this year. Yes, the currency has seen relative stability, but we have to understand that a big chunk of that is because we are not making the dollar payment we are supposed to make because we simply suspended the debt payment. So it's not really that the fundamentals have changed. We've just, because we are doing this debt exchange and we've made some decisions and we are going through negotiations, and we also receive some pounds from getting into an IMF program, you get the sense that some of the indicators are not looking as bad as they were before. But it doesn't really mean that we've turned the corner. In fact, if you juxtapose that comment with the revisions he himself has made to some of the targets, you hardly come to the conclusion that we have turned the corner. Because last year, we all knew that last year was a very difficult time for the Ghanaian economy. We grew at 3.1. So this year, he has revised his growth target down from 2.8 to 1.5. And then even the any year inflation target, we have revised it, showing that we are not going to do as well. So if you put all of this together, whatever marginal relative stability we are seeing is just not enough for us to conclude that we've turned a corner. So I don't think that we have any firm basis. The data doesn't give us a firm basis that the Ghanaian economy has turned a corner.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, Doc. You're
welcome.
Easy. That's Dr. Patrick Esumi. He's an economist and he teaches finance at the University of Ghana Business School. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. Let me speak to Member of Parliament for Yapekusau, former Deputy Minister of Power, the Honorable John Abdullah Jinapo. You're welcome to Eyewitness News, sir. Hello, sir. JJ, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Great. I spoke a short while ago to the national president of the School Feeding Caterers Association. They are fine. They are happy. I've spoken to the CEO of the Chamber of Independent Power Producers. They are sort of okay. They are looking forward to something positive, having heard from the Minister of Finance. It sounds like things are all good, especially since I didn't hear any boo from your side today when he was making that presentation. It means, and he says that the economy has turned the corner. It means things are pretty good now, aren't they?
Thank you very much. An economy that has turned the corner with a GDP growth rate of 2.5 projected, revised downwards to 1.5%. When the minister appeared before Parliament, he told us that with the completion of an IMF program, this economy will grow at 2.8%. He himself is saying that he won't achieve that. It will grow at 1.5%. Non-oil real GDP, and that's what you're looking at because that's the productive sector. It's revised it from 3% to 1.5%. End year inflation, and inflation is the key issue for all of us. But what inflation does is that it eats away your purchasing power. He was expecting to end it at 18%. He says no, he cannot. Do you know where he wants to end it? 31%. This is a minister who told us that he would engage in zero domestic borrowing because he expected that things will improve. Today, and I refer to page 113, appendix 38, financing, domestic, net, 46 billion. That's how much you expect to borrow. From zero to 46 billion. This is a minister and a government that's already gotten almost 60 billion of debt write-off from the Bank of Ghana. The Bank of Ghana is not a profit-making entity. But when they make profit, they don't even transfer it to the shareholders' equity. They put it in the consolidated fund. And yet, they are writing off 60 billion. And despite the 60 billion, the man wants to borrow another 46 billion. This 60 billion should have been paid. He's borrowing 46 billion. So what it tells you that, in effect, he's borrowing like 100 billion. And he tells us that he's turned the corner. I mean, with the greatest of respect, this government is either confused, inept, or incompetent. I listened to the Chamber of IPPs. They are categorical that what the Minister of Finance is saying, they will not accept it. And that the minister hasn't even had the courtesy to meet them. And so he's living in a different world. He's missing all the targets. Go and check the revenue targets. He's missed them. Go and check all the key targets. The only one that is doing well is the primary balance. And you know why? Because the minister has unilaterally decided that he won't pay all our debt service obligations. Eurobond, foreign bonds, all the bonds. The maturity in terms of both principal and the coupon payments. He's decided that he won't pay. When you don't pay these debt service obligations, your currency will stabilize. But it's stabilizing because of a very poor decision. And so you read the whole budget and tell me what is good about this budget.
Is it not good that he's not asking Ghanaians to pay more taxes?
It's already finished taxing us. Go to the ports. The ports are dry, but the taxes are so exorbitant. People are no more important. Umaru, if you want to open your program and ask importers who import essential commodity. I'm not talking of rice, sugar. I'm talking of like logistics, like vehicles, even tractors. When you import a tractor for farming today, you pay close to 60,000 cedis in taxes, not the duty, the taxes. Look, the ordinary Ghanaian is going through a level of unprecedented, excruciating suffering. Last year's inflation was about 40%. This year's inflation is about 31%. That is year on year. That's how we calculate our inflation, year on year. So imagine if last year was 40-something% and this year is 30-something%. You are worse off. And yet he says that you pay your coupon rate of 5%. Look, this government, they have overstayed their welcome. We just have no choice than to tolerate them for another 1 year. We must boot them out. I'm telling you for a fact.
I was asking Dr. Patrick Osumen if it's a big deal that he has not requested for some more money to spend. And the issue was whether there is even enough to have been requested for. You reckon that the non-requests is a big deal, or there really isn't a big deal because there's already a fiscal year program that is being run, which program will continue to run?
A non-request is inherent in the Bank of Ghana's waiver of about 60 billion. That is money the minister should have paid. The Bank of Ghana may only do that through printing because they don't have that money sitting down. If Bank of Ghana had provisioned that as government debt, then we can be engaged in a different discussion. But when the Bank of Ghana decides that they will write it off, who will pay for that 60 billion? Where is the Bank of Ghana going to get that 60 billion to make that payment? If you deduce it and you do the analysis, it simply means that, look, you and I will pay for that 60 billion. So it's not just about coming to say, let me go and borrow another 60 billion. If the man had to pay 60 billion and is being written off, it hits all of us. And I tell you, the suffering is going to get worse.
Very well. We pray that it doesn't get worse. But thank you so much for speaking to us. That's John Abdullah Jinapor. He's member of parliament for Yape Kusau. He's a former deputy minister in charge of power in the Mahama government. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. We are coming to you from our studios in Adabraka in Accra, talking about the finance sector. The minority has a comment that it has been making on the National Investment Bank. Eno, please tell us more on that.
The minority in Parliament has reiterated its call on government to save the National Investment Bank instead of looking to sell it off. Governor of the Bank of Ghana at a Monetary Policy Committee press briefing disclosed that government was reviewing the viability of NIB. Subsequently, the minority group in Parliament has called on government to recapitalize the bank. Deputy Ranking Member on the Finance Committee, Isaac Adungo, addressed the press after opening an account with the bank.
This is the father of our banks, and we have the opportunity to generate more banks if we support NIB. NIB's contribution in our construction industry has been unmatched. NIB has been the vehicle for investment in industry. We all know that NIB is one of the pioneer founders of Nestle Ghana Limited and many other such industrial establishments. We cannot let this legacy go down the ruins. We must support it. We must get it to continue to perform its pivotal role. And we believe that the high-handedness in this regulatory environment must stop. Today, because of what they did to 400 of our financial institutions, there is no confidence in our financial sector. And it is the reason money outside of the banking sector keeps increasing. And last year alone, that grew by 42%. What it means is that people are just taking their monies out of the bank because of this hostile regulatory action. And we want to call on others.
You heard Deputy Ranking Member on the Finance Committee, Isaac Adungo.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
You know your papa see that? And it's rickety car. Hey, papa! Papa! Bobo, so how your engine now? It is half man, half amazing. Thanks to Cause and you. Can't feel better energy. Can't touch this. Guys, so Sancho's engine just died like that. Yes, so somebody managed to convince him that there is a better engine oil than Quartz, and he switched. Sancho Panza.
Now, which engine oil can be better than Quartz?
No other, my guy. Quartz with its age-resistant technology, it keeps your engine younger for longer.
Now you know. Have you guys seen the new bottle design? It's superb. Quartz 9000 from Total Energies there improves fuel efficiency.
Why do you think Mr. Mane and Logoso have taken the Quartz Nation movement World Cup like that? Sorry. Chairman.
Quartz. Keep your engine younger for longer.
Pay attention, all my Africans and African Americans in the diaspora, plus my white brothers and sisters. What if I told y'all the most trusted real estate company in Ghana, Sukasa, would like to take y'all on a nationwide tour, highlighting prime real estate and investment opportunities. Sukasa builds affordable luxury homes with 2, 3, 4 bedrooms. Come get the real value for your money, plus they have very convenient payment policies with 100% guaranteed cash back. This fully gated or grandson communities include malls, cinemas, and all social amenities, plus 24-hour security. All you gotta do is sign up for the tour for a measly couple $1,000 and come see what could be yours in real life. The African dream is alive. Contact Sukasa on 030-296-0865 or 055-369-7886 at Sukasa GH on all social media platforms. Email info@sukasa.com.gh. The Sukasa experience is also bringing on board a bunch of other property developers, which means patrons get a variety of options to buy from. This is powered by Government of Ghana, Beyond the Return Secretariat, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Works and Housing, Diaspora Affairs, the Office of the President, British High Commission, and the UK Chamber of Commerce. Sukasa, building on trust.
Let your voice be heard on Eyewitness News on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag Eyewitness News.
You're welcome back. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. Let's talk about the utility service providers now. You do know that the ECG and the GWCL have been on a campaign asking people to pay money. Those who fail get disconnected. Now, the Ghana Water Company has been busy targeting institutions that are indebted, and it appears that there's also a huge indebtedness being recorded in senior high schools. We are told a number of schools in Eastern Accra, the part that Ghana Water Company calls Tema Region, have been disconnected. Chemu Secondary School disconnected from the water supply. Ulam Secondary School, the same thing. Adan Secondary School, a number of other secondary schools in that enclave. Stanley Mate is manager for communication and public relations at the Ghana Water Company Limited. He's joined us on the line for more on this. Mr. Mate, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Yes, thank you very much.
Is it a deliberate thing that you're targeting secondary schools, or they just happen to be in your path?
Okay, thank you very much. Per our standard operating procedure, okay, we do not disconnect schools. Schools are classified as essential service providers, so we do not disconnect them. We only disconnect when they have been recalcitrant in the payment of their bills, or when they have deliberately refused to settle their bills. Sometimes we receive communique from the secretariat that handles free SHS that we should go ahead and disconnect some of the schools, maybe because they have released their funds to them and all that. So we go there to demand for the money. And most schools will pay without fail if it so happens. So what you are hearing in recent times is that we go into demand for our money. And so far, we haven't disconnected any of the schools. We may have to do a recheck, but we have requested and demanded for our money, but we haven't done any disconnection yet. We will also not hesitate to disconnect when we realize that they are deliberately refusing to pay. So that caution must go to all essential providers, that if they fail to pay, then we'll be left with no other option than to have the schools disconnected.
But we have picked information that the schools are mentioned, Chemu Secondary, Adan Secondary, Olam Secondary, at least these schools have been disconnected by your task force. You're saying that this did not happen? Then who could have done the disconnection?
We have gone there to demand for our money, and failure to do that, we will disconnect. So I'm sure they are assuming that since they haven't done a payment, you are disconnected. But we haven't disconnected as of now, and they can check again. If any schools think that or feel or know that they have been disconnected, they can draw my attention to that, and that will be rectified. And if there's a reason why they have been disconnected, we'll also make them aware. So I am not saying that we do not disconnect schools. We disconnect schools, but based on certain reasons. And if any of the schools fall into that category, we will disconnect. But as I speak and per my checks, we haven't disconnected any school as I speak. But that does not mean that even tomorrow, when we go to some of the schools and they refuse to pay, we won't disconnect them.
I see. But who pays for water in secondary schools? Is it the school through its own IGF, or the government has an agreement with you where a check is issued to you? How does it work? So why disconnecting the schools and not going to the ministry, for instance?
Okay, so there's a secretariat that handles free SHS. So we get our payment from that secretariat. And sometimes the monies are released to the schools. So they inform us that the monies have been released and we should demand our monies from the schools. If the schools haven't received the monies and they have it, they will pay to us directly. Sometimes they pay in bulk, and sometimes we collect from the individual schools or some of the schools. So that is the situation. But like I said, we add some human face because they are essential service providers. In the event where they are recalcitrant and deliberately refusing to pay, we have them disconnected.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us. We hope that it doesn't get there.
Yes, I pray so too.
I appreciate it. That's Stanley Mati. He's head of, or manager in charge of communication and public relations at the Ghana Water Company Limited. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. Up next, we have the latest in the world of business. And then we'll come back with Point Blank. On Point Blank, we'll be delving into the issues of the fracas between the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development as well as Integration, and then that disagreement that he has with the administrator of the District Assembly's Common Fund. The two of them appear to disagree on one issue, which disagreement has landed on the desk of the president. How is President Akufo-Addo going to deal with the disagreement between Dan Butchie and Irene Natoshi-Addo? Please stay with us.
Let your voice be heard on Eyewitness News on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag Eyewitness News.
Get the details. Every significant financial transaction, every market movement, and all the policies that affect your business. Citi Business News. Be informed.
Time now for Citi Business News on Eyewitness News, powered by citibusinessnews.com. My name is Ni Latte. Let's settle for the details now. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has announced significant revisions to the macroeconomic and fiscal targets. The revision aims to align with the target of the IMF-supported PCPEC due to recent development and global economic conditions. Notable revisions include a decrease in overall real GDP growth rate to 1.5% from 2.8%, and non-oil real GDP growth from 1.5% from 3.0% for the year 2023. Additionally, the end period headline inflation is projected to reach 31.3% compared to the previous estimate of 18.9%. The fiscal framework has also been adjusted, resulting in a revised primary balance deficit of 0.5% of GDP, in line with the IMF-supported PCPEC fiscal consolidated path. Despite the current slowdown, the government is optimistic about economic recovery.
All these developments, together with the need to align with the targets of the IMF-supported PC-PEC program, warrant a division to the macroeconomic framework. This was necessary because the framework was guided by the September 2022 data that underpinned the 2023 budget in November 2022. The revisions to the macro fiscal framework generally seek to align the 2023 mid-year fiscal review with the IMF ECF-supported PC-PEC program. Mr. Speaker, key revisions to the macro fiscal target for 2023 year include: 1. Overall rate of 1.5% down from 2.8%. Non-oil revenue GDP growth rate of 1.5% down from 3%. End period headline inflation of 31.3% from 18.9%. Primary balance on commitment basis of a deficit of 0.5% of GDP compared to a surplus of 0.7% of GDP, aligning with IMF-supported primary balances. Gross international reserves sufficient to cover at least 0.8 months of imports of goods and service by 2023.
We stay a while longer on the mid-year budget review because government has reiterated its commitment to the private sector by not introducing any new tax. Government explains that it is rendering financial support through the Development Bank Ghana to cushion the efforts of private players to spur economic growth. Here is Finance Minister again.
Government remains committed to promoting access to competitive financing for the private sector. Over the course of the past 5 years, government has established and recapitalized critical institutions that are able to provide financial intermediation to the private sector. These institutions include GERSO, Development Bank of Ghana, Consolidated Bank of Ghana, the Ghana Commodity Exchange, the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, and the Venture Capital Trust Fund. Mr. Speaker, as the economy recovers, we need to support these critical institutions to deepen their interaction with private sector to spur growth and create more jobs. Government will place emphasis on supporting DBG capital raising to $1 billion mark in the medium term and disbursing about $1 billion Ghana cedis in loans from the current $450 million by end of the year. DBG and GESL to provide partial credit guarantees that will reduce risk and attract more private sector actors to expand agriculture operations. Operationalizing an equity fund in partnership with other private sector investors to augment existing capital for SMEs by DBG.
That's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Meanwhile, tax and fiscal policy analyst Francis Timoboy has welcomed the moves by the government to stay away from the imposition of new taxes. He is rather asking government to take pragmatic measures to rake in more revenue.
So I think it's good to hear the minister saying that he's not going to introduce any new tax. And like we said, any new tax would have been suicidal, as we mentioned. It seems that more efforts are being directed to the 2024 budget. And if you hear him, revenue is doing quite well. The worrying part is that two of our revenue lines are not doing well. He mentioned VAT and also the oil revenue. And the two combined contribute about 33% of our total revenue that we decided to raise in 2023. And that's quite worrying. We don't know the extent of the shortfall, but if they are significant, then it means that the deficit is going to widen the more. Remember, he just mentioned that 2022, there's going to be some spillover of deficit, which means that if 2023 we budgeted to have a deficit of 61 billion and adding the 2022 one to it, it means that it's going to widen. It's comforting to hear him that there are going to be some structural reforms in the revenue measures to be able to tighten the weakness that we have in the revenue collection. So
that's Francis Timoboy. He is a tax and fiscal policy analyst away from the mid-year budget review. And financial institutions have been encouraged to embrace innovative technology as part of effort to deliver robust financial crime risk management. This, according to the Bank of Ghana, has become crucial as there have been a growing concern for banks to intensify strategies in combating fraud-related crimes in the ecosystem. Dr. Joseph France is the Director of Financial Stability at the Bank of Ghana, and he spoke on the sidelines of a risk assessment seminar organized by the Ghana International Bank.
Thing. And so we need to be very innovative.
However, the basics are the same. Whether manual or technology, you tackle the basics head on, and you'll be able to capture it. But it's good for us to also advance as the technology abounds, to have the requisite technology, the requisite models to deal with these things. So we acquire the basic transaction monitoring models and to be able to tackle some of these. It helps if we can also invest very well in technology. So some of these things become easier than we do manually. And I'll urge all institutions, be it banking institutions or other financial institutions, or even institutions that deal in a lot of transactions and huge transactions that the fraudsters can prey on, to invest so much in technology to mitigate some of these risks. Otherwise, it will take so long for you to identify that something is going on.
Dr. Joseph France is the Director of Financial Stability at the Bank of Ghana. On his part, the country representative to Ghana of the Ghana International Bank, Bafo Ohene Abankwa, added that this program will help banks safeguard revenues.
In today's banking world, you need to make sure that you properly assess the risks that you face. If you do not properly assess those risks, you can make the money, but you will lose it. What this program aims to do is to equip banks so that they can properly assess risk from a financial crime risk point of view. Once that is done properly, then when you do the business and you make revenues, you are confident that you will not have to lose those revenues because of the crystallization of some kinds of risk. So that's what we are aiming to do with this program. We hope that the banks will be able to look at everything they do, be able to assess the kind of risk that they face, and once they assess the risk, also put in place measures to manage those risks so that the risks don't crystallize.
You heard country representative to Ghana of the Ghana International Bank, Bafo Ohene Abankwa. And finally, fabric designing and manufacturing company Vlisco Ghana has officially unveiled a new collection christened Storm onto its wide range of portfolios. The new garment collection withdraws its inspiration from the current happenings in the fashion industry, is to inspire patrons to leverage on the positive side of life, to remain hopeful. Addressing the media on the sidelines of the launch of the new collection at the Vlisco office at the Accra Mall, the Director of Marketing at Vlisco Ghana, Mary Ann Boateng, assured patrons and clients of always producing brands that resonate with life.
We are launching our latest collection. We themed it Storm. So it's in line with the season. It's in line with the season in Ghana. We have special designs that we have used to inspire the special celebration of life. So every collection of ours stands out. So one thing about Vlisco is the quality. So the quality, the feel, the look, the designs are unique in its own way. But every quarter we come up with a new collection. And each of the collections that we come out with are special designs. They are limited editions. So when you see this collection and it goes, you will see another collection again. So we have a team of designers that come up with these collections to keep in trend with the fashion trends and then the things that are happening around the world, things that people like. Most of our designs are inspired by women. And so we encourage most hardworking African women to wear our clothes, to express themselves through our fabric. Vlisco has a special barcode, so a QR code. So anytime that you buy a genuine Vlisco fabric, you can scan the QR code and it will actually tell you straight away whether it's a genuine Vlisco product or not. So most of the time, the best bet is to get it from the Vlisco shop.
That was the Director of Marketing at Vlisco Ghana, Mary Ann Boateng. That's all for City Business News on Eyewitness News. It was powered by your most comprehensive business news website, citybusinessnews.com. My name is Neil Lati. Up next is Point Blank.
Let your voice be heard on Eyewitness News on Facebook at facebook.com/City97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/City973, and Instagram at instagram.com/City973 with the hashtag Eyewitness News.
Hello,
Auntie Araba. Hey, Bugger, how are you doing today? I want to buy Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, but I don't have enough money. So what are you going to do? Can you give me the big size? You know, as for me, I'll pay the balance later. Today, no credit. I haven't sold much this morning. If you don't have enough money for the big size, why don't you try the 120-gram pack? There's a 120-gram pack? Introducing the new Pepsodent Cavity Fighter in 120-gram pack size. More affordable and convenient. Get yours today from any supermarket near you. Every smile matters. This advert is FDA approved.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
Blank on Eyewitness News. My name is Umaru Sandama. Tonight on Point Blank, drags Common Fund boss to before Akufo-Addo. The story says a seeming frosty relationship between the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Daniel Kweku-Boche, and the Administrator of District Assembly's Common Fund, Irene Toshi Adolati, has landed on the desk of the President. The move follows recurring disagreements between the two top government appointees over the disbursement of the Common Fund, resulting in the sector minister reporting the Administrator to the President. This is in furtherance to a series of letter exchanges between the Common Fund boss and the lawmaker for Okre over what the minister termed discretionary disbursement of the funds. One of such letters dated May 4, 2023 and signed by the sector minister reads in part, "The attention of the minister has been drawn to the discretionary allocation of funds for specific projects and activities for District Assembly's Common Fund. For instance, I have attached to the copy a letter addressed to the Western North Regional Minister allocating a total sum of $1 million cedis to the Member of Parliament for Bia East constituency. In the attached letter, a reference was made in paragraph 2 to indicate that, quote, we write to inform you that approval has been given for contract sum not exceeding 1 million cedis. Since the ministry has never been consulted and involved in such approval, could you clarify the approving authority and process of approval? End of quote. It was closely followed by a letter dated July 10, 2023 to the President arguing that the trigger for the utilization of the allocation stated above can and should only be done by the Minister for Local Government and Decentralization and Rural Development on behalf of government to ensure consistency with the government's aspiration for development of the MMDA. So that's a story on citynewsroom.com, curled from the New Crusading Guide online.com. We've made attempts to hear from the two individuals named, have not been successful. Instead, we'll be speaking to someone who has knowledge of the District Assembly's Common Fund Secretariat. Joshua Magnus Nicole served as administrator for the District Assembly's Common Fund in the Kufuor era. He's joined us on the line. Sir, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you.
I'm made to believe you served both under Kufuor and Mills, correct?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Great. Now, this appears to be a usurpation of powers, according to what the minister is saying. You have an understanding of the District Assembly's Common Fund. Where do the lines meet, and where does the supervision and direction from the ministry come? Is there even a ministry that has direct supervision over the District Assembly's Common Fund, considering that it's a creation of the Constitution and not necessarily an act of Parliament?
Well, it depends on which way you look at it, but certainly it is the Act 936 which governs both the ministry and then the administrator who performs in dispersing funds to the assembly. So I would like us to look at the Act itself, Act 936, the Local Governance Act 936. And the first,
Go ahead.
And let's look at section 129 of that act. It tells you the functions of the administrator. And there are 4 functions that are listed under that section 129. 1. The administrator is to propose a formula annually for the distribution of the common fund for approval by Parliament. And when that formula is approved, he is to administer and distribute monies paid into the common fund among the district assemblies in accordance with the formula approved by Parliament. And 3, report in writing to Parliament on how allocations made from the common fund to the district assemblies have been utilized by the district assemblies. And the last one, perform any other functions that may be directed by the president. These are the functions of the administrator.
This makes the administrator very, very independent of the ministry, doesn't it?
Certainly. There's no mention of any ministry here. And this is his function as set out by the Act. And also, the common fund is set out by the Constitution itself. And so I am looking at it from this angle, that this is what is for the administrator to do. Anything else that he does would then not be at the right position. But I don't know exactly what is the problem between the minister and the administrator. But if the administrator is going by his functions or her functions, then I don't really understand the problem between the two, honestly speaking. But then maybe you might also look at the section, the same act, which brings in some setting about the minister. If you look at that section 126, Parliament to make allocations to these assemblies for development. The common fund is for development. And as I mentioned from the 129, every year annually, the administrator presents a formula to Parliament. And once that formula is approved, then she has to disburse the funds according to that formula. I'm not sure of the 2023 formula, but in the formula, if you go back there and take a copy or any other formula from previous years, we always give out how the allocation or the money should be shared to the assemblies. And it is in those sessions or the formula that you really look at the nitty-gritty of how the fund is going to be disbursed for that particular year. Normally, they don't vary, but once in a while, maybe the percentage terms and what comes into the formula can be varied. So if you take the 2023 formula, it will tell you exactly what is the formula is saying. The only portion that the minister is mentioned is, as I said, under the 126. And there it says, if you look at 1263, the minister, which is the local government minister, shall, in consultation with the minister responsible for finance, determine the category of expenditures of the approved development budget of these assemblies that must, in each year, be met out of amounts received by the these assemblies common fund. So that is the only aspect where the minister and the two ministers will give instructions to the assemblies as to the areas that they can use their funds for the development fund. So all what we are saying is that the direct amount that go to the district, that is for the development, and that is actually stated as to which areas that can be used for.
So it appears that administrative-wise, the minister thinks there are some steps that ought to be taken. That's what he believes. But legally, the District Assembly's Common Fund has no obligation whatsoever to the minister. But looking at the minister's letter to the president through his secretary, paragraph 10, and I'm going to read that for you, maybe because the minister has come under the law to make his point. Maybe if you, I would want you to look at that. He says that as a supervisory ministry of the Local Government Act 2016, Act 936, and the ministry responsible for coordinating the MMDAs, we are of the view that the mandate to determine which districts receive such support and special attention lies with the ministry. We are of the firm belief that the trigger for distribution should be initiated by the ministry on behalf of government to ensure it sits within the broad government strategy. Does the minister? This is governance more than legal. It sounds to me.
It's even with the governance. If I want to go back, let's go back then to the same act, the 126. This particular letter, I don't know what the minister wrote, but from what you are reading, the minister annually directs the districts in collaboration with the Minister of Finance as to where they have to spend their money in the development projects. That is the only area the minister, and when that is done, letters are written to the district that for this year, the broad areas that we want to consider maybe is education, this and that and that. And it's sent to the district. In fact, the minister is not even to tell them that what exactly they should use the money for, but it gives them a broad area.
So it's sounding to me as if there's what's the word? Independence of activities. The ministry decides what projects should be done. The District Assembly's Common Fund decides how much should be voted for that. So
No. The formula, okay, maybe he decides through the formula. The formula is sent to Parliament for approval.
Mm-hmm.
And in the formula, the percentages will be determined by, in collaboration with the guidelines. If the minister says that for this year, we want these projects to be undertaken in the district. So the administrator would then look at what is the broad terms and present a formula to Parliament. And in the formula, as I said, we have other areas that we have to consider. We have national youth programs, national employment support, national disaster, so many of them. The disabled people with disabilities, national sanitation support, all this will go to Parliament. And a reserve, as soon as the formula is approved, that is, and when you are drawing a budget, this is the kind of budget. When you are drawing a budget, it's natural that you leave a kind of something for liability, for emergencies. And those monies, we term them reserve, which is in the formula.
Okay. I am looking at the general letter, and there are paragraphs in there that suggest that there is the relationship between the ministry and the District Assembly's Common Fund, at least the two heads, there's no collaboration whatsoever. I'll read for you two paragraphs for emphasis of the minister's letter to the president. Paragraph 11 says, even more worrying is the fact that as a ministry responsible for the MMDAs, we are not involved, engaged, or consulted in any form by the administrator of District Assembly's Common Fund in the development of the formula proposed to Parliament. We are of the view that government would be more efficient in the utilization of such resources if we align the decision-making process with all relevant stakeholders. Paragraph 12 says, it is instructive for His Excellency to note that this ministry has not had the expected level of cooperation from the Office of the Administrator of District Assembly's Common Fund. In the past 2 years and 3 months since I have been in the ministry, efforts to get the Office of the Administrator of District Assembly's Common Fund to align with the ministry in the strategic determination of the beneficiary districts of such allocations has not been successful. Now, this is very worrying, sir. And does it sound as if it's a personal score between the two that ought to be settled, or this can be elevated to be institutional? Is it an institutional disagreement you get? Or
I don't think it's institutional.
It's between the two individuals?
Yes, I think so. And so maybe what they can do is to bring in the select minister in Parliament, the select committee on local governance, to come in and maybe resolve this issue. This shouldn't be a big issue, honestly speaking. It could be resolved.
But the complaint has been sent to the president. What can the president or what should the president do about this?
My suggestion is maybe he should refer it to the, as I said, Select Committee of Parliament to look at it, or to a higher body, Council of State or some committee to look at it critically. But honestly speaking, the law sets every past minister or administrator's lines straight. And if you perform within your lines, there shouldn't be any problem. The cooperation should be there. Once you are all working with the assembly, the minister is responsible for the assembly. Administrator is distributing funds to the assembly. So there should be collaboration between the two individuals.
Well, but until then, the frosty relationship continues. How does that harm the sector?
When there's a problem, there's definitely a harm. Even if maybe the administrator wants to give instructions or... No, certainly once there's a discord, there will be some big problem hampering the development of this country. And I think they should refer this matter to the Select Committee for them to try and solve the two out.
Do you remember who your minister was when you were there, both under the Kufuor government and Mills?
I served under, first I served under Kojo Ban, who is the first minister. I served under J. Dakon. I served under Asabi.
Stephen Asamoah Boateng.
Stephen Asamoah Boateng. I served under, that is the MPP time.
Yes.
If I served twice under J. Dakon, he was the last minister under the MPP. And when the NDC came in, I served under Opon Fosu. Then I served under...
Would it be the former chairman of the party?
That's right.
I'm just trying to get the name.
Begro, once at Begro MP.
Yes. So do you remember your relationship with them? Did it matter that you had a minister? Did you deal with the presidency or the ministries?
I dealt with right from the presidency, minister. It's purely collaboration. And as I said, there is some... You must collaborate, but there's no other word I can use. But as I said, the legal aspect is there, but you need to collaborate to develop the district.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
You are welcome.
That's Joshua Magnus Nico. He's a former administrator of the District Assembly's Common Fund. He served under two governments, the John Kufuor-led MPP government and the John Mills-led NDC government. Decentralization, Honorable Dankweku Yeboah for comments have not been successful. We contacted Honorable Irina Toshiado, the administrator of the District Assembly's Common Fund. She refused to comment. She said the letter was for the president and ought not to have been leaked to the press. It's Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. Today, the Minister of Finance was in Parliament to deliver a statement on the media budget review. Subsequent to that, a statement has been issued this evening which touches on some of the things the Minister mentioned. I'll give you a flavor of some of the things the Minister has been saying, but before then, let me read the statement that he issued this evening. It says that commencement of the alternative offer for the pension funds exchange. The government of the Republic of Ghana announced today that it is inviting pension funds as defined in the exchange memorandum referred to below, holding domestic notes and bonds of the central government, ESLA PLC and Dachi Trust PLC, specified in tables A below, the eligible bonds, to exchange approximately 31 billion cedis principal amount of eligible bonds for a package of new bonds known as the exchange bonds as specified in Table B below. The terms and conditions of the invitation are described in the exchange memorandum dated today and available on the website. It says this invitation is intended to enable the pension funds to preserve their patrimonial value while exchanging their eligible bonds for bonds that offer more potential liquidity. The invitation is available only to registered holders of eligible bonds that are pension funds. Eligible holders tendering their eligible bonds pursuant to the invitation will receive exchange bonds of the government on the terms and subject to the conditions described in the exchange memorandum. All offers to exchange eligible bonds made by eligible holders are irrevocable, subject to withdrawal rights under certain limited circumstances. By tendering their eligible bonds, eligible holders represent and warrant that such eligible bonds constitute all the eligible bonds owned by them and consent to the blocking by the Central Securities Depository of any attempt to transfer them prior to the settlement date as defined below, or the termination of the invitation by the Republic. So further details have been provided. You can go to our website, citynewsroom.com, to read more on that. Let's now hear from the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta.
Mr. Speaker, we have turned the corner, and more importantly, we are determined to continue down that path. Mr. Speaker, when I presented the 2023 budget in November last year, I indicated that I will pursue major fiscal and monetary policy measures within the framework of the PCPEC. Our coordinated response to the macro-fiscal challenges, which His Excellency the President charged us to develop in March 2022 before going to the IMF. That's the PCPEC. As a first step towards fulfilling this objective, Parliament passed the revenue and expenditure measures as well as several other macro-critical economic policies we presented in the 2022 budget, and we are grateful for that. Along these lines, we also needed to create additional fiscal space by negotiating an International Monetary Fund program, 2, concluding a debt operations program, and 3, attracting significant investments, especially green investments, for a vibrant growth strategy. Mr. Speaker, I can now report that we have been diligent and resolute in implementing these measures and successfully negotiated the $3 billion US 3-year IMF ECF program, which was approved on 17th May 2023 to support the implementation of our PCPEC. Concluded on February 14th, the initial part of the debt operations, of which the domestic debt exchange program. Developed a framework for the V20 Climate Prosperity Plan to attract climate investments from the private sector, and initiated the Mutual Prosperity Dialogue to crowd in domestic and external private investment to underpin our growth strategy. These achievements have been with the support and commitment of this august House and the Ghanaian people. It demonstrates that when we speak with one voice, we can achieve what we set our minds to do. Genesis 11:6, if as one people speaking the same language, we have begun to do this, then nothing we plan to do will be impossible for us. Right Honorable Speaker, accordingly, His Excellency President Akufo-Addo has asked that I convey his profound gratitude to this House for passing all the revenue bills as well as expenditure measures. Indeed, our sincere gratitude also goes to all investors, financial institutions, and bondholders for the sacrifice, support, and perseverance in this difficult period of our country's economic history. We appreciate your contribution towards turning the corner and commitment to partner us in transforming the economy. We must also extend appreciation to the IMF, the World Bank, and other development partners as well as the G7 and G20 members who have stood so strongly with us. Mr. Speaker, for the first 6 months of the year, we continue making progress to exceed our non-oil revenue targets for the year. We have seen improvements in non-oil tax revenue collection despite some notable shortfalls in VAT. However, oil revenues are falling short of expectations due to changes in global prices. We will therefore undertake a downward review of the oil-related revenue as well as the corresponding expenditures to align with the underperformance of some of our revenue handles. Specifically, this will impact the annual budget funding amount. Mr. Speaker, in view of the reasons outlined above, as well as the lower domestic interest payment and amortization following the completion of a part of the DDEP and the reduction in the foreign finance capex, the appropriation has been revised from Ghana cedis 227.7 billion as presented and approved in November 2022 to 206.0 billion Ghana cedis. This is in line with Regulation 24, Sub-Regulation 3 of Public Financial Management Act Regulation 2019, LI 2378.
That's Ken Oforiatta, his Minister of Finance in the House of Parliament today. My name is Umaru Sandamadu. I did this with Eno Safo. Production by Kobna Wilson. Technical support from Daniel Squashi. New media support from Edwin Kwakofi. We return tomorrow at 17:30 GMT. Up next is Footprint with Samuel Atamensa. Tonight, his guest, former Information Minister, former comedian, Fritz Bafo. You don't want to miss the conversation. Stay with us.